Is Florida homeowners insurance really as bad as everyone says it is? Because I know the stories we've all heard, $9,000 a year, bills that just go up and up and up. And honestly, maybe that's the reason you're still renting. So here's the truthful answer in 2026. It's finally turning around. And if you're the one buying, you're actually sitting on the best seat in the whole market. Let me explain. Hi everybody, my name is Chad Gibson with the Dreamtown Homes team here in Orlando, Florida, and I can tell you of all the things that scare first-time buyers in Florida, insurance is probably the number one thing I hear. It's actually not the down payment, shockingly enough, but insurance. You've done the math on everything else, and then somebody says, yeah, but wait till you see the insurance. And then suddenly the whole plan feels pretty shaky. So today, two things. Number one, some honest good news, finally, and I don't get to say that very often on this topic. Second, more importantly, the one moment in the entire home buying process where your insurance bill is actually a choice. Most people miss it. I make sure my buyers don't. By the end of this video, you won't either. Real quick, before we dig in, I put together a free first-time buyer costs and assistance checklist for Orlando. It walks you through the upfront money, the costs that tend to blindside new buyers, and the down payment assistance programs around Central Florida that most renters have never even heard of. I put the link in the description below. Okay, here's the good news. For years, we've all seen it. Florida homeowners insurance has only moved in one direction, and that direction is that way. We've all heard the horror stories, and honestly, a lot of them were true. But this year in 2026 is the first time in a long time that direction seems to be moving down. Citizens, which is the state-backed insurer, got a statewide decrease approved this year, almost 9% on average for homeowner policies. Big national carriers have filed for cuts too, and regulators have logged more than 190 rate filings asking for a decrease or no increase. And 20 new insurance companies have come into Florida since the reforms. Now, this is relief. It's not a rollback. Right now, it's not a major change. Nobody's got a big, cheap bill coming overnight. A lot of the relief only shows up when your policy renews, and some bills won't change much at all. So the wind changed in the right direction. That's the news. Here's what none of those headlines will tell you. In Florida, insurance isn't really priced at the market level, it's priced at the individual house. The age of the roof, the electrical panel, the wiring, the construction. When a carrier quotes a house, they're not quoting Orlando necessarily. They're quoting that roof, that panel, the specific home. Think about it this way. When you already own a home, you should absolutely be shopping your best policy every year. Carriers change, prices change, make them earn you back. You don't have to stick with them for 30 years. But shopping carriers moves your bill by degrees. The house sets the baseline. As a buyer, you're the one person in this market who still gets to choose the baseline itself. Homeowners shop carriers. Buyers get to shop houses. Buying is the one moment where your insurance bill is a real decision, and almost nobody treats it that way. So let me make this real. My old house here in Orlando was about half the size of the one that I'm in now. It was an older place, 60 some years old, and the insurance on it cost nearly double what I pay today. And granted, that was a few years back, so the market has moved, but that gap wasn't the market. My current house is new construction. New roof, new wiring, new everything. So insurance carriers love that. The old one, they charged me for every one of those 60 years. Same city, same person, the house is the price. So why was Florida so bad in the first place? The short version is that carriers were drowning in litigation and roof claim schemes, and their own backup insurance, reinsurance, got brutally expensive. Then the state came and passed some reforms, and the lawsuits cooled off in a big way. Florida went from nearly 80% of the country's homeowner insurance lawsuits down to around 40. Reinsurance got cheaper, companies came back, and competition is doing the rest. All right, one more thing, because it does matter. Even when a carrier says yes, they will insure, they can change their mind after you close. Yep, you heard me right. That happened to one of my buyers, and I'll tell you that story in a minute because it changed how I do things First, the method. Okay, so if the house is the price and you're the one picking the house, when do you actually deal with insurance? Here's the answer, and I want you to remember this one. Your inspection period is your insurance window. When you go under contract on a house here in Florida, you get an inspection period. Usually a week and a half. It depends on what you negotiate and what your contract says. During that window, you can actually walk away from the deal, get your escrow deposit back. After that closes, you're kind of stuck unless a financial contingency saves you, or maybe you have a few other contingencies. But the insurance window is simple. Inspection first so you know the actual condition of the home, then insurance quotes immediately after while you can still walk away. Get real quotes on the real house, don't guess, and definitely do not use the seller's old bill. And as a heads up, if the house is 20 plus years old, expect the carrier to want a 4-point inspection, roof, electrical, plumbing, AC. I also recommend getting the wind mitigation report while the inspector's there too. That one a lot of times is optional, but I almost see every insurance carrier ask for it. And many Florida insurance companies will give you a discount. So what are we actually looking at inside the window? A few things move your quote more than anything else combined. Number one, by a long mile, is the roof. Florida actually has a law on this. Under 15 years old, a carrier cannot turn you down just because of the roof's age. At 15 plus, it's prove it territory. What that means is they can require an inspection showing the roof has at least 5 years life left, and a Florida shingle roof often can't pass that test. So in practice, around 10, you're usually fine. At 15, plan on a replacement talk. The electrical panel. A few brands of older panels, Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Challenger, your inspector will spot them on site, and most carriers will not touch them until they're replaced. The wiring. Aluminum wiring sounds scary, but there's a recognized fix right at the outlets. Special connectors permitted, done by licensed electricians, doesn't require a whole house rewire. Some carriers, including the state-backed one, will cover it once that's done right, and knowing which ones is your agent's job. That really old knob and tube stuff, plan on a full rewire before anybody covers that. And an old dying AC or water heater equipment showing up on that 4-point, and that also drags your quote up. So none of this means don't buy an older house. I personally love Orlando's older style neighborhoods. It means you just have to know the number before the house is yours. Here's where I think your own agent earns their keep. Say you fall in love with the house and that roof's right at that age line. That's not the end. That's a negotiation. I go to the seller, this house is not going to be insurable as is, so let's fix that before closing. And something a lot of folks don't know, there are roofing companies that will put a brand new roof and get paid at closing out of the seller's proceeds. Sellers don't have to come up with the money right out of their pocket, and you get an insurable house with a new roof. Fair warning though, these days the seller usually picks the roofer and handles the permits, and we usually can't close until that roof is on. One more trap while we're here, just because the seller has insurance does not mean their company will write a policy for you. Sounds ridiculous, right? But it's a new buyer, a new policy, new underwriting. It's so stupid, but that's how they are. So never assume the seller's bill is your bill. All right, so here's that story I promised you. A few years back, I helped one of my buyers negotiate a roof repair with the seller. The inspector said the roof had about 10 years of life left, but there was a patch in the corner that was rubbing away from some branches. So we negotiated with the seller to clear the debris, trim back the trees, and patch the roof. We got approval from the insurance company that if we did this, they would be okay with the insurance. They said yes. That made the seller happy because they didn't have to replace a new roof. It made my buyer happy, and insurance said we're good to go. Well, here's what happened. After my buyer closed, they moved in, and 3 months later, guess what? They called my buyer and said, put on a new roof or we're dropping you. They originally said yes, they were okay with it, and they changed their minds anyways. And I'll tell you what that did for me. I decided to make my roof rule tougher than the insurance company's own paperwork. That carrier's yes on an aging roof is written in pencil as far as I'm concerned. So now, anywhere near that age line, I don't negotiate a patch and promise. I push for the full replacement before closing, or we treat the price like a new roof is part of it. I stopped building my buyer's plans on an insurance company's word because it's not worth much apparently, and that is my new standard. And if you're thinking, I'm just gonna wait for all this to settle down, here's the thing. The relief is happening carrier by carrier, house by house. So waiting doesn't get your house quoted, the window does. So one thing to remember here, Florida insurance is finally turning your way, but the headline doesn't set your bill. The house does. And the good news, you get to choose the house and check it inside the insurance window while walking away is still completely free. That's why my buyers are not shocked at closing. Not because we got lucky, because we do everything upfront. If you want the full picture of what buying here really costs, the upfront money, the blind signing costs, the assistance programs, grab my free checklist linked below. And if you want to talk through your own situation, you can book a free 30-minute call with me. That link's right next to it. No pressure, no pitch. You just tell me where you're at and I'll tell you what I see. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Let's go find your house. Take care.